Hey, what is going on, Liberty fans? My name is Nick Kirby. Welcome to the A Sea of Red live podcast. This is the basketball edition. The show is presented, as always, by Jason Porter Real Estate, covering all of your residential and commercial real estate needs in the Lynchburg area, and our newest sponsor, Ironclad Coffee, who we are really excited to be partnering with, and we will tell you a little bit more about them later on during the show. I am joined, as always, by the Reverend Will Matthews. What is going on, my man?
Nick, it's going to be a great month of December for us as Flames fans. We've got a little basketball action, and I don't know if you can see this. I know this is basketball, but Lynchburg is officially Chadwell country. Welcome, Coach. I know you're not watching this, but we're glad to have you.
I think he's locked in tonight. I think he's locked in. Probably already out on the recruiting trail. Just sat down for some dinner and turned on YouTube and here we are. So I have faith he's watching.
It's a great show, especially it drops the next day on Apple Podcast or wherever you might get your podcast. And so, maybe while he's on the recruiting trail, pop on a Sea of Red Hoop show and listen to what's going on. We saw a picture of him and Coach McKay. So 2 legends already. Maybe he's into basketball.
Yeah, very good. And look at you, Will, already becoming a company man. That's great. All right. Well, coming up tonight, we are going to have Kyle Rode joining us again. Our guy, Kyle, kind enough to take a few minutes with us, talk about where things stand right now for the Flames. And then also going to have the godfather of A Sea of Red, John Manson, is going to be on. He's going to talk about the updated net rankings, which I was really excited about this morning when they came out. So he'll be on. And then, of course, Richie Longshots with your best college basketball picks of the week. We'll kind of mention it, but if you are watching tonight on YouTube, please take 2 seconds, hit that like button, subscribe as well to the Sea of Red Liberty YouTube channel. All kinds of great content. Chad and John were on the field yesterday after the Chadwell press conference. Really awesome video, just kind of talking about what it was like in that room. We continue to post post-game press conferences for men's basketball. So all kinds of good stuff over on A Sea of Red on YouTube. And then, like Will also mentioned, podcast version always up the next day on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Be sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. We really do appreciate it. Before we get to Kyle Rode here in just a minute, let's run through some of what's going on around the Liberty Flames. This was the only game of the week. Liberty knocked off University of Maryland Eastern Shore 79-59. The game was never close. Liberty led by 25 at halftime. Darius McGee, 22.6 assists. McGee has been electric beyond the arc the last 2 games, 11 for 19. So he's really heating up. And as we'll get to a little bit here with the schedule, maybe heating up at a really good time for Liberty. with their toughest game of the season coming up here in the next week, the toughest remaining game of the season. Will, what did you think about this win and overall kind of where the Flames are playing right now?
Yeah, kind of expected to win. Darius, 22 points, 5 players to reach double figures. So kind of expect to win there. And I think you're right. I mean, I think it seems like they're kind of clicking. They had a rough couple of weekends. And then some of these games I think are, we can ask Kyle about this, but I think very helpful as they kind of go into this next stretch.
Yeah, Liberty was a 16-point favorite according to Ken Pop going into this game. So obviously have a 25-point lead at halftime. That's really good. Of course, these kind of things help the metrics a lot. So yeah, I think they're playing better. Seem to be taking care of the ball a lot better. Defense has been playing really well the last 3 games. Probably not up to McKay's standards as much in the second half of this game as much as the first half. First half was great, held to 22 points. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think that the team's playing pretty well and coming into an interesting stretch. All right, we're going to get really deep dive into it with John Manson, but net rankings were announced today. If you're unfamiliar with the net rankings, that's the official NCAA rankings. Basically replaced the RPI, but a lot more sophisticated than that, uses efficiency and strength of schedule. So it's not just like Ken Pom where it's just all raw numbers. There is a little bit more to it in terms of strength of schedule and who you've beaten, all that kind of stuff. Little less rewarding for running up the score than a site like Ken Pom. But Liberty coming in at 127. I think I said last week we'd have them around like 129. So, hey, I think I got one right this year. Yeah, kind of right where we thought we'd see them. What do you think here, this first net ranking of 127, Will?
I thought it was interesting that we were 4th best in the ASUN with the net ranking. I think it just kind of shows how competitive the league has been, is this year, will be going forward. I would be interested to know kind of where our CUSA opponents will be next year. I didn't look that up. But yeah, you said it, the last 2 weeks that we could be anywhere from like 90 to, 150 or so. So, yeah, I think it's pretty fair where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing to remember this early in the season, these rankings are going to really fluctuate a lot. These over the next month or so, they'll kind of settle in at the more data you get. When you win a game in March, it's going to move the needle a lot less than it is now. I think Sam Houston State is like number 7 in the country right now. They've had a great year, and they have, I think, 3 quad 1 wins. They've really done they've had an incredible season so far, but they're obviously not the 7th best team in the country. So you got to kind of take these rankings right now with a grain of salt. I think Liberty's in a good spot to where, they have room to grow, but they're not, trying to dig themselves out of a, 200 plus ranking or anything like that. But like I said, we'll dig into that a lot more when we have John Manson on later. But right now, let's go ahead and bring on Kyle Rode for the Jason Porter interview of the day. All right. Joined now by Kyle Porter. Kyle Porter. Joined now by Kyle Rode and Jason Porter. Kyle, how we doing tonight?
Doing great, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. Always fun being on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this interview, as always, is presented by Jason Porter. So, Jason, why don't you go ahead and give us the first question of the night for Kyle?
Yeah, Mr. Rode, I'm sorry for the demotion there, changing your last name, buddy. Hey, great game the other night. It was fun seeing you guys just really coming together. I noticed something that I wanted to ask you about that I think is probably a little bit of a growing trend, and would love for you to speak to Nick and Will and the audience and I about this. But there was a moment at some point during the game that kind of actually happened behind coach, and I actually happened to say something to him yesterday about it. But Darius kind of sidebarred one of the other other freshman point guards, and was just kind of whispering in, coaching him up, doing what Darius does, upperclassmen do what you do. How important is that that idea of just trying to coach up the younger guys and trying to make sure they understand not only the culture of the program, but certainly the X's and O's?
No, I think it's kind of what Coach wants, man. He wants us to be a player-led team, and Darius does an unbelievable job at just staying in everybody's ear as far as like comments or little points throughout the game. He has such a high basketball IQ, and Colin, like all of our freshmen, and really most of our guys, like take information and take coaching from each other really well, which is really fun, and because we all have like the best thing in mind for each other, and I think that's really unique and allows us to serve one another, and like you saw Darius being able to kind of serve Colin in that way, and ultimately make us better. So that's really cool.
Yeah, Kyle, you were that first half against Eastern Shore. You were on fire from three, like NBA Jam. Like you probably could have showed Darius up with the range. And then you were like yelling at the bench, I guess to get them fired up. Like when you're feeling it, and you've got the hot hand like that. Like what are you seeing from their defense, and maybe just kind of run us through like. When you have the hot hand and kind of what it's like to also be unselfish and look for the best shot in those times.
Yeah, I think one of like kind of my roles is to try to bring energy to our team, and any game, even though I think we were probably favored in that game, just try to bring our energy, bring our own joy, and our bench does a great job celebrating little plays, big shots. So always cool to see their reactions, and yeah, we got a really good group of unselfish guys, and the basketball always seems to find like who's feeling it for the most part. Normally it's number two, but at the same time, like as we have such an unselfish team that I had a couple in a row, and our guards do such a good job, and we have such good guys that screen in space well. So hopefully just got to shoot the shot.
Kyle, net rankings were announced today. You guys came in at 127 starting off. Two-part question for you. First part, any thoughts on this ranking? Was it kind of where you guys thought you were going to be? Were you think maybe a little higher? What was your thoughts on this?
Yeah, to be honest, I really don't know a whole lot about how the rankings work. Coach McKay tells us all the time the game's played on the court, not on paper. So we really don't focus too much on it as a team or anything like that. But it's always cool to get recognized, and something that is great to talk about and analyze and compare to other teams. But at the same time, we don't really pay too much attention of it as players. But it's a super cool graphic, and it's awesome, man. Like we're obviously trying to be the best team we can be, and the higher ranking typically means you're getting a little bit better. So we're going to keep getting better every day, and hopefully that ranking goes up.
Well, that graphic is from our guy Zach McLaren. So shout out to Zach. Great work on that. Does a lot of the graphics for us here. Ren does an awesome job. So you kind of answered my second part there. I was going to ask how aware you are of like the efficiency numbers and things of that nature, and how kind of running up the score can be beneficial. You guys don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that. You just try to play the best you guys can on any given night.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade, man. Normally, we're not too concerned about that kind of stuff, but it's cool that you just inform me about that.
Kyle, we always talk about there being three distinctive seasons to the overall season itself, as far as games go. Non-conference, conference, and then the blessings of March Madness. As you guys are wrapping up the non-conference play here, how do you stay locked in on these kind of handful of games? And since Nick asked a two-part question, I'm going to go for a two-part question. That would be the first part, and then part two is, you started looking at some of the conference foes just a little bit, some general scout stuff, or can you kind of start telling us about that?
Yeah, no, I think this is kind of almost the second half of the non-conference schedule, we've had more practice time, and Coach McKay's loved that. So we've been really focusing in on the details and defense, of course, and just trying to really prepare for the next game tomorrow night, of course, and then understanding we have 3 really big ones after that to conclude our non-conference, and then another one on the 21st before you get into Bellarmine, which they're always super disciplined, well coached. They probably play one of the toughest non-conference schedules you'll find in the country. So I've seen that because I'm from Kentucky. I know they played Kentucky recently and they beat Louisville to start the year. But other than that, man, normally everybody plays on similar nights, so you really don't get to watch too much of the other conference opponents. I heard you guys mention that we were like 4th or something in that ranking from ASON teams or something like that too. So you guys really keep me in the loop. So, but no. And then the second part, did I answer the second part, JP?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Hey, I know Nick's probably going to ask a really intelligent question here in a moment, but I'm here for the hard-hitting questions, Kyle. I'm looking at the schedule, and of course, you guys, the game tomorrow night got switched up a little bit with the opponents, but Maryland Eastern Shore, if I could go back to that for a second, it was ugly Christmas sweater T-shirt giveaway night and Christmas party night. What is the go-to Kyle Road Christmas party like? And, what is the gift giving like? And what's Kyle Road's favorite Christmas song? The folks want to know. Flames Nation needs to know.
So that was a 7-part question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was
hard hitting.
We'll start with the T-shirt that they made for the last game for the students was awesome. I'm actually trying to still get my wife one for Christmas and put that in a box and give it to her for Christmas. So that's kind of what the gift giving is like as well. So that's it. That answers that. Favorite Christmas song. The only one I can think of right now is Jingle Bells. So we'll say Jingle Bells. Christmas movie, though, probably like a Home Alone or Elf. Just a classic there. So that was a bonus answer, too. So, yeah.
All right, since Will's put the pressure on me. So, Kyle, you guys are 2nd in the country right now in percentage of shots that have come off an assist. How much of an emphasis is that for you guys? Is that something that you guys are putting a lot of pride in this year?
Yeah, I think kind of every team I played on since I've been here has had really unselfish guys, and I think that's almost just a testament to that, and having guys that can create their own shot, but also create for one another. And Darius attracts so much attention, of course, and his unselfishness and being able to pass. Collins added a great value to that too, and being able to take pressure off and handle the ball. And we got so many guys that set up assists that don't even get recognized most of the time because they're the ones screening, and that there's no screen stat in the box score that I'm aware of. But they do such a good job of getting other guys open, and so it's really a testament just kind of to the whole team because that's kind of what assists come down to, and getting great shots.
Very good,
Kyle. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jason. You got another question?
I was just gonna say, you guys had 2 days off. If I know you forgot what that's like, but man, how was the break? What'd you do? How are the legs? Are they coming back? Feeling good?
Yeah, no, yeah. 2 days off in December doesn't happen very much, but Coach does such a good job, like work-life balance, and we have a veteran group of guys that stay locked in. We gotta see Shrine on our off day, our athletic trainer at the LAC, so that's always fun. And get in the pool recovery tubs and run underwater treadmills and do fun stuff with him. So that was a little off day yesterday, but it was great, man. Like coach and our staff, he does such a good job of just really caring about our physical health, mental health. And so 2 days off is sometimes it's really, really uncommon, but it was cool.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks so much, Kyle. Jason, got a question for you. How critical is lending peace in getting the process started?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nick. It's definitely one of the the foundational blocks here as we start talking about the new home ownership, or that path for people as they're looking into buying or doing something with the home buying process. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the team that we've got assembled with local lenders here is incredibly important. And they're the ones who obviously set your shopping budget, if you will. They're the ones who will review your finances and get into all the nitty gritties of the numbers. And it's incredibly important to have that ready to go so that we kind of run parallel tracks. I'm working on the real estate side with you. And then a lot of my local lender partners are working on the financial side. And when those two come together, man, we're ready to rock and roll. So that lending piece and that mortgage piece is incredibly important and something that I can help anybody out with.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jason. We really appreciate all of your support, helping make these shows possible, and not just that, but you being such a great fan of Liberty. I know this is our basketball show. Normally, I'm a stickler. We got to stick to basketball. But Jason, I got to ask you about the head coaching hire. What was your thoughts on that before we get you out of here tonight?
Yeah, I think it's a home run. Bring in one more sport. Right? No, fantastic hire there. I think Coach Shadwell is going to do a phenomenal job. I really appreciated his humble attitude and humble spirit with everything that he's posted. Certainly what he said yesterday in the press conference, but could tell he's genuinely excited to be part of Flames Nation now, and I think he's going to feel the love already, and I'm excited for him to get to work. I know he already is.
Awesome.
Jason, were you at the press conference the other day?
I was yesterday.
What was kind of the mood in the room? Sorry, Nick, we're hijacking for football here, but
man, it was packed. It honestly looked like a third floor game day. I mean, it was there were so many people there from literally across the room or across the stadium, but really a good energy, I think, for sure. Standing ovation when he and Ian came in, which was really cool. And I think his family was overwhelmed by the attendance too, but a lot of other head coaches in the room as well. And man, it was a packed house. The energy was real. It was exciting to see.
It's great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jason. Let's go ahead and bring John Manson into the conversation. All right. It is our guy, John Manson. John, what is going on tonight?
What's up, Nick, Will? Thanks for having me on. It's my first time on with you guys since the season started. I know I was on back in that 2-hour extravaganza show y'all had everybody on, but appreciate you guys being part of ASOR Red this year. And this show's been a lot of fun. I enjoy watching it each and every week, and you guys bring a lot of good content for Flames Nation, ASOR Red, and men's basketball.
I appreciate it, John. Appreciate you having us on. We'll definitely bug you a lot more now that football's maybe at some point getting towards a closure. I know we still got quite a ways to go, but once football's getting good now.
Football is year-round. I mean, this week I'm busier with football coverage than I was during the season. So it's just a year-round sport now. So it is what it is.
Once it slows down a little bit, we'll be bugging you up. We had to have you on today with the net rankings. I know you're a guy that follows the net rankings closely like I do, and I think you have at least a little bit of an interest in it. So I definitely want you on that. But before we jump to that, Will, thanks for bringing this up in the chat. I meant to mention this. John, real quickly, tell us a little bit about the NIL thing that ASOR Red is partnering with before we jump into some of this conversation.
Yeah, sure. We're super excited to announce this. We announced it today. It's something been in the works for several weeks. The Flames Rising NIL Collective, powered by ASOR Red, is what we're calling it. It's just a place for Liberty fans, donors, boosters to kind of come together and pool resources to have a collective. You see the term collective thrown around in the NIL world a lot across the country, and it's just a place where these funds can be pooled and these resources can all come together, and we can use that to give it back to these student athletes. And we can't do pay for play or anything like that. So we've had several meetings with compliance at Liberty, several meetings with Ian McCall, the athletic director, and Mike Hagan at Flames Club, and And we even had a donor dinner kickoff about a week or two ago where we had about 25 to 30 donors that were there that we kind of met and kind of get this thing kicked off the ground. And we thought with the coaching change, it was perfect time to go ahead and announce it. We were probably going to wait and do it first part of the year. But, we had a great response so far today and over the past week, really, before it kind of became public. And, so Chad and I actually are going to do a video, not live or anything, because we're not doing a football live show this week, but we'll do a video, probably publish that tomorrow, just answering some of the questions we've gotten. But, it's a way you can go to seared.com/NIL. You can join or become a partner for as low as $20. And then of course we'll take as much money as you want to give, but 91%, I saw one of these questions and I'll throw this out there, and it's a lot of information out on the website, but 91% of all funds that are given in this collective go straight to student athletes. 9% kind of covers our overhead and costs and fees and things like that, because we have to pay for the transfer fees for people using the services with credit cards and using your account online and PayPal and things like that. But anyways, 91% is going straight to the student athletes. So it should be a really good avenue and another tool for Liberty to kind of continue its ascent as a top non-Power 5 program in football terms, or a top mid-major program in the country.
Awesome. Well, really excited about that. Oh, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, John, I mean, you and Chad have, and some others have put a lot of work into that. And just as alumni, I mean, like that, we appreciate what you guys are doing, because, it's like a team effort with you guys and the university, because we all believe in the mission of the university and athletics being the vehicle to accomplish that. And so we just really appreciate all you guys, what you guys are doing, for the athletes and to see Liberty to continue to rise.
Thanks, Will. I appreciate that. And I got to give a big shout out to Chad. I mean, he's really been the linchpin for this collective and for NIL and conversations. I mean, he's had created so many contacts that we've been able to get the past several weeks. And he's been on the phone almost nonstop every day, talking to different boosters and things. And so Chad's done a great job, and looking forward to seeing this grow. And like you said, it's all about Liberty. Everything we do at ASOR Red, our old tagline used to be all Liberty all day. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're on the show tonight. And that's why we do the NIL collective as well.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, to the basketball conversation, net rankings announced. If you are watching them, got them up on the screen. I won't read through them all. But first thing that stands out is FGCU at 72. So they are a quad one team if you're playing on the road. Liberty, unfortunately, doesn't play them on the road, so they kind of wish they could get a potential quad one game. The other thing that stands out is no one's in the 300s, and Bellarmine is 288. John, what was your kind of initial thoughts with these net rankings? Were you kind of like me, where you were like, wow, this is much stronger overall than we've seen in years past in the ASUN?
Oh yeah, that was obvious. That was the first thing that kind of jumped off the page is, we've been, kind of tracking the net rankings. I do an article, typically weekly during basketball season, and always when the first rankings did and come out for the net each season. And I did one earlier today. And first thing I do is go see where Liberty is, obviously, and about 127. I think you talked about that probably being about where we would be, and that's kind of where I expected. But then I went to search for all the ASUN teams, and I wasn't used to having to look up the rankings. I normally just start heading down, but you can always you can obviously see that the ASUN's a lot better. FGCU, what they've done this year is pretty remarkable. I knew they would be a lot better, but I didn't think they would be this good, and certainly not this early. They got a lot of new pieces on that team, and Pat Chambers has done a good job there. And Jacksonville is a real kind of enigma to me. Like, I don't know if we know how good they are. They got a really good win over Campbell, but I think they've only played, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but 2, maybe 3 Division I teams. So we're still kind of waiting to see exactly how good they are. But yeah, I think Liberty's kind of right where we kind of expected them to be. And, but yeah, obviously the number one thing that kind of, jumped off the page, if you will, was how much better and deeper this ASUN is. And not just that Liberty's fourth, but if you look at that, you got 7 teams in the top 175. I mean, I'm not sure the ASUN's ever had 7 teams in the top 175. You might be lucky to have 2 or 3 in most years.
Yeah, Jacksonville played Duke on November 7th and then didn't play another D1 game till November 23rd. And then their last game was against a non-D1 team. So, yeah, only 3 D1 games. So, yeah, really no idea what to expect out of them. They really don't have a whole lot of good data on them yet. Yeah, man, FGCU 7-2 on the season. Their only losses, 2 road losses at Tennessee and San Diego. I'm fascinated to see what they do in conference play. No disrespect to Jacksonville, Lipscomb, and Lipscomb's had a really surprising year. They've proved me wrong pretty well so far this year, but I think it's probably going to end up being a 2-horse race with FGCU and Liberty unless someone else really just kind of fights to the top. I think it could be like the same situation like Liberty Jacksonville State and then Liberty Lipscomb that first year where it's really probably these 2 teams are the class of the ASUN. Will, is that kind of maybe how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, like John, like I, just looking at this and seeing how, how many were in the top, 175, top 200, kind of popped out. But yeah, I mean, FGCU, that's an opportunity for us to get a really good win. And where did we finish last year? It was like 85, 86, something like that. I could be wrong about that. I can't remember exactly, but I looked it up earlier and I don't remember now, but yeah, I think potentially, with the conference being a little bit tougher this year, I think potentially we have a better team than last year. So I'll be interested to see kind of how it shakes out with FGCU and Liberty at the end.
Kind of the biggest surprise I had in these rankings was Bellarmine. I was kind of surprised they came in last. They've played a really tough schedule. I mean, they've played, Kentucky, UCLA, Duke, I believe, several other teams. Louisville, who's obviously, I think they're like 3rd from last in the net so far, but they started the season opening night with a win over Louisville, and we kind of all turned our heads to that. But come to find out, Louisville's not very good. They can't score on basically anybody. But I was surprised they were that low. I know they've gotten beat bad by several teams, but they were all, probably quad 1 games. But I was kind of surprised Bellarmine was so low.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Nick. It's good to see. I guess it's good to see Queens being so high in their kind of first year as well. I mean, they've had a pretty, decent schedule. And they've, they're 7-2, a couple of non-D1 games there. I almost expected them to be a little bit higher than 172, but that's still, really good for, first year program.
Yeah, I think Bellarmine is a little bit of, false advertising at 288. I don't think I wasn't a big believer of Bellarmine this year, but I don't think they're the worst team in the conference. I think it's one of those. They don't have a Division I win other than Louisville, and I think that's really just tanked their rankings. But if you look at their schedule, they played almost all outside of 1 game. They're all like top 100 teams. So let's see how they look. Kind of the first couple conference games. One of them is going to be hosting Liberty. Hopefully, the Flames don't kind of come in there thinking that is the worst team in the conference, because they're definitely capable of pulling off a win. Last year we actually finished 118th in the net. Really, rankings really tanked at the end of the season. It was pretty rough the last about month. I think we were up in the 80s, but it really tanked. But listen to this: the next best team last year was 148, Jacksonville State, and then there was 3 teams in the 300s at the end of the year. Now this is still very early in the year, and these rankings are really going to fluctuate up and down. So I don't want to, take a big victory lap. Hey, there's no 300 teams. Well, they might start settling in, and these teams are all going to beat up on each other too. So someone's going to have to be the worst team in the league. But I think overall, pretty positive. We did get a couple questions I want to kind of get to here. Dan asked this a little while ago. Do we have to win the ASUN to be ranked around 60 to get into the playoffs? What we do in the ASUN won't really impact the rankings as much, wins and losses wise, as much as it's a lot of efficiency and stuff like that. Like I said, I don't think that 127 ranking is necessarily that big of a deal right now. Liberty could go win at Oral Roberts next week and potentially jump like 30 or 40 spots. Like that this early in the year, I think you could have that big of a leap if you say they wouldn't win by double digits. They could really shoot up the rankings quick. Tomorrow's game has absolutely no impact on the net rankings because they're only Division I games. So again, it's still early in the year. There's going to be a lot of movement up and down. We'll be tracking it every week, and I'll try to kind of give you an idea of who went up and down, and that's kind of an interesting thing.
But to his point, I mean, the ASUN, even as much improved as they are from previous years, it's still a one bid league. I mean, nobody's going to get an at-large in the ASUN, and those rankings are going to probably end up trending down as a whole, especially once we get into conference play. So to Dan's point, I mean, you basically have to win the ASUN conference tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. And you're not going to get an at-large unless, maybe if you were to win out, an FGCU or something like that, that might be in the conversation because they've already got a solid net ranking. But it really comes down to, and as we'll get into, I'm sure as the season goes on, it comes down to your net ranking plays big into your seeding if you were to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, and being at 127 or somewhere in there, you're likely not going to be a 16 seed. You'll probably be at least a 15, possibly a 13 or 14, depending on how the rest of the other tournaments look. But yeah, I mean, we're in a one bid league, so you got to go out and win the conference tournament.
Yeah. And John, I was going to say too, to get an auto bid, I mean, we would not only have to run the table out of conference and beat, Northwestern and go on to play Auburn and, some of those games we didn't, get a chance to, but also you got to think like, kind of where we are in the net, there's probably a lot of teams right there that are very similar. And so, we would not only have to run the table, but also have to have a lot of luck from other teams losing some important games as well. And so to Nick's point, that as much as it'll jump, as I don't know what kind of analytics they use to determine the net, but you got to think where we are, there's probably a lot of teams right there that are very similar to where we are. And they just have a couple of off nights and we have a couple of good nights and we jump up.
Yeah. Another good question. How do we stack up as a conference in the net rankings? I don't think the net rankings actually rank conferences, but I do have the KenPom rankings, which do rank the conferences. The ASUN is actually up to 18th now. They started 22nd. So they've jumped up 4 spots. Liberty's still number 1, but again, still has that preseason data cooked in. FGCU is up 119 spots in KenPom since the start of the season, which is just pretty insane to think about. So they may not be done, leaping up, especially as some of the preseason data gets cooked out here in the next month.
Hey, Nick, do you have readily available Southern Miss where they're ranked in the net? I think they're in the 70s, but that's another team that's going to end up being a lot better than we thought. I mean, they were, preseason, KenPom like 300s. I don't know how much they've jumped up during the season. They're probably jumped 150 plus spots already. It's amazing what they've been able to do.
Southern Miss is 31st in the net. So if Southern Miss moves up one spot, they are a quad 1. No, they're not a quad 1 game. They're they're a quad 1 game. Yeah. Even hosting them. That's ridiculous.
Who would have ever thought that? I mean, we thought that was going to likely be a quad 4 game coming into the season. It'll probably settle in, I would imagine, as a quad 2 or quad 3. But that looks a lot better. It would have been better if we got the win, obviously, but it's better to have them, as a quad 1 or quad 2 loss rather than a 3 or 4.
Yeah, they're probably pretty safely at least a quad 2. I mean, they'd have to really think. They were 324th in Ken Palm to start the year. Just insane.
Where are they at now?
They're 30. Well, I don't know.
Palm.
Ken
Oh, that's fine.
Palm, they're 180 in Ken Palm, so they are the very extreme. Them in Florida Gulf Coast, you kind of see how Ken Palm, when they have that preseason data cooked in, it's still, there's still quite a bit of that in there, and Ken Pomeroy has said that usually completely goes away in early to mid January. But the net rankings in Ken Palm, most of it's not going to be like that drastic. So they're going to come together here. There'll be some differences, but nothing like 180 and 31. That's ridiculous. The other big ones, Bradley is a quad 2 game, and they are 79. So neutral is up to 100. So they're right now safely a quad 2 game. So that was a huge win for Liberty in that tournament. And here's kind of some of the opportunities that Liberty's going to have. Oral Roberts is 70th. So that's a quad 1 game. I think it's up to, I got it on there, up to 75. So Liberty might beat them and they move to a quad 2. But that's still going to be a very, very high quality game. And then Florida Gulf Coast at home, and then Jacksonville and Lipscomb are quad 2 games, and then a whole bunch of quad 3 games. So it may not be as sexy like as people might want, looking at some of these on the schedule. But when you're talking about the difference between a 12 and a 13 or a 13 and a 14, it's going to be who had these quad 1 and quad 2 wins. And for Liberty, I mean, like, Liberty could have a legit chance if Southern Miss ends up being a quad 1 game, for instance, to have really good like quad 2. They could have like above 500, and there's not going to be a lot of those other teams that are in Liberty's boat that are going to be able to say that at the end of the year. So this Oral Roberts game, it is huge. It is a huge game on Monday for Liberty. It's the biggest game of the, I would say, I mean, other than maybe like your tournament seeding and getting home court advantage, I think it's the biggest game the rest of the year for Liberty. John, any thoughts on Oral Roberts?
I mean, it's going to be it's a good game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very difficult, though. I mean, Max Asmus is very talented. He'll be wanting to one up Darius each time down the floor, and that play is going to be rocking. I remember talking to Coach McKay in the preseason. He was talking about how badly Oral Roberts wanted to start that home and home on their home floor. And so they were able to get the game at home this year, and they're billing it as, their premier game at home this season. So it's going to be rocking. It's going to be a loud and tough environment. Darius McGee against Max Asmus will be a lot of fun, but I'm looking forward to that one. I was also surprised to see Grambling up so high. I think they're 120, 150, somewhere in the 100 and some in the net. So I haven't really looked at them much, but that's a game coming up. It's the day before the bowl game, so I won't be able to go to it, but I'll be watching online or on TV. But I thought that was another one I was a little surprised, because in the Ken Palm, I think they're still down in the 300s.
Grambling is 136. They're up to 252 in Ken Palm, but they started the year 325. So I tell you what, I don't know, man. Maybe Richie McKay duked us all. He had this inside info on. He's like, yeah, Southern Miss is actually going to be a quad 1 game, guys. Like, I'll show you.
Yeah, we're all complaining about the schedule, and yeah, he's a mastermind. And if we had Larry Blair, we would have just run the table on everybody.
There it is. 9:14 Eastern. He got his Larry Blair, and I had the over under a little earlier than that, but yeah, very good. Couple other thoughts here I had on the overall with the ASON. We got another question I want to get to. Jacksonville State, they've had 2 straight wins, including a road one at East Tennessee State. I don't really know what to make of them. Or are they just one of those teams that maybe took a little while to get gelling with a lot of new pieces? They're kind of like that lurking middle of the pack ASUN team that's going to kind of scare me this year a little bit. Some nice road wins for the ASUN. Queens won at Bowling Green. North Alabama won at Morehead State. North Alabama. Good for them. That's you don't expect that. And then Kennesaw won at Mercer, and I don't know if it was it went final, but they were also winning pretty big at Charleston Southern. So Kennesaw's coming playing pretty well.
Kennesaw almost they also almost knocked off VCU on the road. I think they lost by 3 or 4 points, something like that. I was watching the end of that game. It was right ahead of a Liberty game. And but yeah, I mean they're playing a lot better. I know that's one that Chad thinks is a really basement dweller here in the ASUN, but I think he's wrong on them. But yeah, to your point about Jacksonville State, I think they've got a lot of new pieces. They had a lot of seniors, veterans last year, and a lot of new pieces this year. I expect them to get better and better as the year goes on, and to be a tough out in conference play. But yeah, I was looking at them, in the last day or two, and I'm with you. They were really struggling, and then they kind of picked it up a little bit with some, 2 nice wins the last times out. So I'll be interested to see how they go throughout the rest of the year. Another team I think is kind of interesting is North Florida. They got a lot of pieces returning. I kind of had them in the preseason power rankings that I do on ASOR.com. I had them in the top 5 or 6, I believe it was. Well, they always play a tough schedule, but they have not performed well at all. I think we saw their net was down towards the bottom third or so of the league. So they got a lot of pieces, though, and they're a team that they might go into conference play like they do a lot of times with a 3-12 record or whatever, but then they'll end up being a tough out during conference. And I think that that happened to them last year, and that kind of seems to be the mantra for North Florida.
The highlight of this show so far is Nick Kirby getting excited that North Alabama beat Morehead State. And just the most exciting thing, and hey, I just want to let you know, give you a heads up. Central Arkansas has about 3 games that they're going to lose, but then they play Little Rock, who is 331 KenPom. So we might not be able to contain Nick if they actually win that game.
I was locked into Ooey Pooey Green Bay today, two winless teams. That was a noon game, man. I love a good daytime game. North Alabama, man, they don't win a whole lot of Division I games in the non-conference. I feel like they might have last year not won. Yeah, they did win. They beat a couple SWAC teams, but that was about it. That was a non-SWAC win for them. So that's huge. That's huge. Good for those guys.
Good for them.
Stetson has come back down to earth. They've lost 3 straight, and they had a 48-point loss to Florida. So that's the only Debbie Downer in the ASUN. A couple more questions, then we'll get some final thoughts with John. Sorry, I had it here. What is your feeling close to the beginning of conference play? Let's start with Will on this. What's your overall kind of feeling about the team as we're going in and how they stack up with the ASUN?
I feel good as long as we limit turnovers. I think that's kind of the biggest, deal right now with the team. Is it seems like we kind of beat ourselves with the turnovers. But
John,
yeah, I've really been impressed by the play of Blake Preston. Seems like he's slimmed down some this year, and he's been a force on the inside. I mean, he's not always, the greatest when it comes to, going up quickly and strongly and finishing. But, especially against mid-majors and teams in the ASUN, he's a guy that, can score 8 to 10 points on a given night, get you 4 or 5 rebounds. And he's really been pushing Shiloh for a starting spot, in my opinion. And speaking of Shiloh, I think he's a guy that Liberty's really needs him to take that next step up. Kind of, he was really slow out of the gates this year. I don't know why. But, last year he scored 20 points on a given occasion. And we really need that out of him again, to show that ability. We know what he can do on the defensive end of the floor. He's one of the team's best defenders. But if we can get him to be more consistent on the offensive end, especially shooting threes, it'll make this team that much better.
Yeah, Shiloh kind of slowed down at the end of the year last year, so hopefully maybe it's a reversal this year where he can play his best basketball at the end of the year. But yeah, I think that's a great point, John. I think Shiloh is huge to the overall success of this team. I mean, I would say right now, only team that I think can beat Liberty without Liberty's doing is Florida Gulf Coast. They're the only team that I think is in Liberty's talent level and ability and coaching and all those kind of things. I think they're the only ones. There could be another team that wins the ASUN, but I think it's going to be probably more to do with Liberty not performing than anything else. Florida Gulf Coast is the only team that I think could beat Liberty on a given night if Liberty played fairly well. I think. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, well, how would you compare them to the 2019 Lipscomb team?
I don't think they're that good. I mean, it's just they're so unknown. Like there's so many new pieces. I think Pat Chambers is a heck of a coach. I mean, you look at what he did at Penn State. He never got that's such a tough place to win at, and they had great KenPom rankings. They never got the marquee wins enough. They were always that last team out, and then they should have been a 6th seed in the tournament in 2020, but then it got canceled. He's a great coach. So I think that team is going to, as long as he's there, I think that team is going to run the ASUN after Liberty and all the other teams exit. I do like Kennesaw as well, though. I think Kennesaw will get a first-round bye. The top 4 get first-round byes. I think they'll be in that top 4. I think they're going to host a game. I think they did last year too, didn't they?
Yeah, last year they did.
Mm-hmm.
They hosted a game. That was the first time in their Division I history they'd ever hosted a postseason conference tournament game. But yeah, I could see that as well too. You asked Will about the 2019 Lipscomb team. I think a lot of times Liberty fans forget just how good that team was at Lipscomb.
Very good.
And what Liberty did to go and beat them at their place twice that year, especially in March, the second time for the conference championship. But that Lipscomb team went on to win the NIT, or maybe they were the runner-up that
championship
year,
game.
Runner-up.
Yeah, they made it to the championship game and lost to Texas, I believe it was, or something like that. And Garrison Matthews, I think I'm not a big NBA fan. He was with the Wizards for a few years. He might still be on an active roster. So that team, they were one of the last teams out. So you talk about getting an at-large bid. I mean, that year, Lipscomb was in the conversation and left out.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't watched enough FGCU this year to see just how good they are. I've just been looking at their stats and their KenPom results and things like that. But I'm intrigued by them. I thought all along that going into the season they'd be one of the top teams in the league, and I'm looking forward to being able to watch them here soon.
Garrison Matthews still with the Rockets, played 19 minutes 2 nights ago. Oh, I mean, Caleb Holmesley was as good as it gets. I felt, especially for a Liberty player that had some NBA potential, he could stick in the NBA. There's a lot of factors that go into that, and you could go down a whole rabbit hole of that. But yeah, hot take. I think that Liberty's win at Lipscomb was more impressive than the win against Mississippi State. I think it was a tougher win, on the road. Yeah. With all the there was no pressure against Mississippi State. Liberty, it was house money. But that Lipscomb game, I'm not sure if I've ever felt a sporting event with more tension than that.
Yeah.
That was I was sick to my stomach during, but it was a good, exciting.
That's one of those games that you like to go back on YouTube and watch the clips of it and relive that one. But remember also Lipscomb beat us by 40 points, at home. And that was, in the prime of Liberty is unbeatable at home. So, or right at the beginning before that. But, that was still one of those Georgie's 3 from the corner, and then Scotty James flops and all that kind of stuff. But that was, I'm with you, Kirby. I think that was a better win than the tournament game. I think the tournament game, maybe in the big picture of Liberty athletics, maybe more important. But that Lipscomb game was a better win.
Yeah, well said, John. You were there, right?
Yeah, I was there for that game. I actually made the trip for both the games at Lipscomb that year. My brother lives, not far from Nashville, and so it makes it easy to be able to stay there. And my nephew was born that year, so that's why I was able to make an excuse to get out there and see him. But that was man, what a great game that was. And I'll never forget that 3-pointer in the corner by Georgie Pacheco Ortiz. And he gets overlooked so much on those teams with Caleb Holmesley and Scotty James. Another guy who gets overlooked, Lavelle Cabell. I mean, that guy was a baller. And, man, he really was the key, the linchpin that kind of turned this thing under Coach McKay. He was the first guy that signed for McKay when he came back from Virginia. And he really got this thing turned back in the right direction. Because if you remember early on in Caleb Holmesley's career, he was, more of a role player. And Lavelle was kind of the guy that was leading the team on both ends of the floor, offense and defense. And Caleb, it seemed like he shot up his second or third year in the system and grew a few inches over the summer and really took his game to the next level. And then Scotty James as well, too. But, man, those are some good old times.
Yeah, and, to kind of bring it back to current times, the way Caleb kind of just like took off and like all of a sudden, like he's just on the scene. When I saw Shiloh come out, I kind of thought that's kind of who he's going to be. And it's yet to be seen. And like Kirby said, maybe he gets hot down the stretch and he starts getting some of that same kind of attention that Caleb got.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100% on Georgie Pacheco Ortiz. That 2020 team was 10th best in the country in turnover rate, the fewest. And a lot of that was Georgie Pacheco Ortiz, and we've seen since he's left, that's been the biggest problem for Liberty. Yeah. They were pretty good with Chris Parker. He was a pretty good. No, they were actually really good. They were 34th, but the drop off from Georgie, Chris Parker, then to now has been, I think, the biggest flaw. For Liberty.
Just to show how good that team was that year, was Darius McGee like the 8th man on the team? I think in the second game in the NCAA tournament against Virginia Tech, he led the team in scoring. I believe had 3 or 4 3-pointers. But now we're talking about him being the greatest 5 3-pointers. Okay, the greatest Liberty player in school history, and he was the 8th man. Of course, he was a true freshman. But that just goes to show just how good and deep that team was. And Keenan Gums, another guy we forget about, but he was such a pivotal piece to that team as a grad transfer and a great role player. But that was a lot of fun that year and those couple seasons. And hopefully we can get some more lightning in a bottle this year. And you never know with Darius McGee. I mean, if he gets hot at the right time, hopefully towards the end of the season, Liberty could knock off just about any team in the country.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen Darius's best game yet either. So,
yeah. All right. Well, very good. We could talk all day about that 2020. I could talk 5 hours about that. I could go through every single game and enjoy it. But we're going to have a quick word from a Sea of Red's latest sponsor, Ironclad Coffee. Really excited to have them joining us. And then we'll have Mr. Richie Longshots.
Virginia's best and most flames-friendly coffee comes from Ironclad Coffee Roasters. Ironclad roasts and serves up their beautiful beans at 2 cafes in Richmond, but you can enjoy their crafted roasted specialty beans from anywhere in the country by visiting www.ironcladcoffee.com. Place your order there and it'll be roasted to your order and shipped out directly to your doorstep.
Whenever you find yourself in the Commonwealth, pay them a visit at their 2 cafes in the Richmond area. Ironclad's owners, the O'Rourke family, are proud Flames Club members and are pleased to sponsor these podcasts by Sea of Red. Hop on over to their website at www.ironcladcoffee.com now to get Virginia's best specialty coffee headed your way.
All right. Richie Longshots is in the house. John's going to stay on. Of course, John is going to stay on after a fantastic 7-3-1 week. Longshots, what do you think about John Manson? Maybe a sleeper here coming back.
Well, first things first, Nick, I haven't had a cup of coffee in 15 years, but that commercial might inspire me to jump back on the caffeine wagon. Ironclad Coffee. If we can get some Ironclad Coffee down to Boca, I will have my first cup of coffee in 15 years. So just want to get that out. John had a great week. I was impressed. There were a lot of close games this week. I know I lost a couple by like a point, and I just was like, just checking the score on my phone. I know, the Baylor Gonzaga was a push, had no business being a push. Baylor should have won that game a little bit more. And also just shout out, obviously, to John having a great week. Anytime you can go 7-3 with a push, 70% is just awesome. A shout out to us. We all took Liberty and they covered. So we were able to break our streak of when we have a consensus pick. Usually fails, but in this situation, we finally nailed one.
And FGCU, we did two.
Yes, 2-2.
2 kisses of death. So maybe it's over.
We're back.
For all the listeners and the viewers tonight, I just want you to know that overall record is very deceiving. These first 2 weeks that I made my picks, this is my disclaimer I'm going to have for the rest of the year. First 2 weeks I made these picks, I was, having to do it in the airport on the way back from Arkansas, or, when I was on the way back from New York City with the family from the UConn game. But, these last 2 weeks, I've been able to put in some time, do some homework, and look who's been top of the leaderboard each of the last 2 weeks.
Well, I'm sure you can ride out college football for another month and a half, or maybe into March. Something will happen. Hey, they got to recruit. Sorry, guys, I went 2-8 this week. We got a top 500 recruit. So,
wow,
built-in excuses. You always need a built-in excuse.
Yeah, I wear my 5-5-1 with pride. All right, let's get to it this week. Great slate, man. I mean, I don't know, maybe a mediocre slate this week. But I want to start off with St. Louis at Iona, because I think this game is awesome. And I want to see Liberty have these kind of games. Like, why can't we have a home and home with Iona? Like, that is awesome. And I who knows, maybe Pitino's too scared to do a home and home. I don't know. But this is a fun game. These are the games that I love watching. I love watching St. Louis Iona more than Kentucky Duke. Give me St. Louis Iona every day. I know I'm a weirdo, but we all went with St. Louis. I wanted to go with Iona. Like, I feel like this is Pitino's Super Bowl in the non-conference, getting St. Louis to come to their building. But St. Louis is really, really good. I couldn't do it. Longshots, why are you buying the Pitino stock?
Iona's 4-0 at home against the spread this year. St. Louis 3-3 as a favorite. Give me the undefeated team. You don't think Pitino's having the time of his life watching Louisville right now? You don't think he's just cackling in his office in New Rochelle, New York? Just like, what a bunch of idiots down there. Like, he's taking Iona. What a risky move for them to go out and get Rick Pitino, and it worked out. But yeah, 4-0 at home. Like you said, this is going to be the Super Bowl for them, and I like the Gales, right? They're the Gales.
Yeah,
Iona Gales. I know what I'm talking about sometimes.
The Iona Gales.
We played Iona in a bracket buster game a couple of years ago. I wish they would bring those back.
Yep.
Not that
those
game.
Were fun.
Not that game, though.
No, that was a rough game, but just the concept of the bracket busters was always fun.
I got a group of non-Liberty people together to watch that game. I think it was on ESPNU, and oh man, that was they were like, Kirby, you made us watch this. Like, that was rough.
Yeah.
Rough times.
I was at that game. It was bad.
Yeah, like it was never close. Like it was start to finish. Yeah. All right. James Madison at Virginia. Once again, Longshots goes against the grain. John, why do you like Virginia in this one?
This was one I actually went back and forth on. I was the only one. I was in Richie's boats last week and was the only one that took JMU, I think, minus 15 or 16 against whoever it was. We were picking them against, maybe Jacksonville. I forget who it was. But anyways, I went back and forth. JMU's had a really good start to the season. But so as Virginia, they're really good. That pack line defense is something else. It'll be interesting because JMU scored a lot of points. They've scored 90 to 100 points in several of their games this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. And one reason why it kind of tipped me over towards Virginia was they went and played at JMU in their new arena last year and lost that game. So I know that Virginia's not going to be taking them lightly. But again, I mean, this one could go either way.
That's exactly why I went with Virginia. I think JMU is really good. I think Virginia's going to be on their game in this one. Long shots. Why are you taking the Duke Dogs?
As John said, JMU has a great offense. Obviously, Virginia's defense is masterful. But in a situation like this, give me the points. UVA has not covered in their last three. Sure, they played Florida State, Michigan, and UMES, as I've been calling them, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. I think UMES sounds a lot better. Haven't covered in any of those three games, so I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and in that situation, give me JMU and the points.
North Florida at Houston. We all are taking the Cougars. I've been on the Cougars, but they have kind of disappointed me the last couple of games. I mean, they've been winning, but not covering their spreads. North Florida's just not good. I just think Houston's just going to destroy them. Only way North Florida covers is if it's like some sort of backdoor garbage at the end. Is that your guys' thought? I just think Houston is just going to wipe the floor with them.
Yeah, this is 30 points. It's going to be like 90 to 55, 35, 40 points. It's just going to get ugly.
I might actually put money on this one. We'll see what the actual line is. This is the one. First two, probably stay away.
It might be out already.
Is it? All right.
There's some Wednesday, there's some Tuesday lines out already. So I'll look that up.
All right. You look that up. We'll talk about Jacksonville State at Utah. Like I mentioned earlier, Jacksonville State playing better, but Utah just beat Arizona on their home floor and beat them pretty convincingly. 15. I can't take Jack State to cover, but long shots. Either we're going to catch up or you're going to run away with this because we got a lot of different picks this week. Why are you on a Jacksonville State?
Well, I couldn't find they didn't have a point spread for it yet. There are some couple of Tuesday games floating around. The JMU game specifically, that spread is UVA minus 11.5. So in the ballpark of that 13. But I'm happy to take the 13 there. Utah, I think they're gonna come off of a big win. This is going to be a game they just kind of glaze over. Give me the points.
All right,
give me the points. I'm in a big take the points mood right now. Coming off of feast week and the brackets, teams are this is the last stand before really conference play ramps up for everyone. So this will be just kind of like all right, let's just get into conference play with a win and go from there.
Take the points unless you're North Florida.
Yeah.
Yes. Unless you're playing the number one team in the country, then yes.
Yeah, I feel like North Florida's ATS is not going to be good this year. All right, Friday night, Queens at High Point. This is a fun little mid-major game. I wanted to go with Queens. I originally had Queens in my first draft, but then I looked at what High Point's done this year. I was like, ooh, wow, this team's been pretty impressive, and they're the home team. I think they've been too impressive this year. I think Queens could win this game. I looked at what High Point's done, and I had to go with them. John, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually, when I first saw this, my gut was like, take Queens. But when I looked up what High Point had done this year, I was like, I think I'm going to take the Panthers, especially at home. Of course, Queens will probably end up winning the game outright, and I wouldn't be surprised. But High Point's been impressive. Both these teams have been impressive, and both North Carolina teams about an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe away from each other. Should be a good atmosphere and a good game.
Yeah, I think I'm like 0-4 on picking against Queens this year, and that's why I wanted to go against them. But then I looked at High Point, and I couldn't do it. Lipscomb -7 at Alabama A&M. I feel like this line is going to be a lot higher than -7. Long shots, do you agree? I think Lipscomb is, unless Vegas isn't doing their due diligence. If that is actually -7, put some real money on that.
Yeah, one of my rules is I don't bet on any team with A&M in their name, just out of sheer principle. Same with Midwest directional schools, any of the Eastern, Western Michigans. So no, I will never bet on Alabama A&M. The only time I'll bet on an A&M is if it's Texas A&M. And even that's not very profitable these days in anything. So no, Lipscomb's significantly better. I couldn't tell you Alabama A&M's mascot. So yeah, Lipscomb in a runaway probably would be a double-digit spread when it comes out, like you mentioned. So definitely a nice little Friday night betting opportunity.
I was incredibly shocked to see this at 7, and that's why I had to go up and look at Alabama A&M, what they have done, and nothing they have done screams, oh, this should be a 7-point spread. So it was an easy pick for Lipscomb, but of course, again, we're probably missing something, and Alabama A&M is going to cover. But yeah, give me the Bisons here.
Just that home boost, really. I don't buy it here. Will, you got any thoughts on Alabama A&M? I see you want to chime in here.
A lot of thoughts. No, I was just wondering why Richie Longshots doesn't do the A&M. Is that are you superstitious or just a little stitious?
I'm just a little stitious.
Okay.
By the way, Will, you watching Raw tonight? Are we missing anything?
I'm gonna watch it on Hulu tomorrow.
Ooh, you're gonna avoid the spoilers?
Yeah.
All right. Arizona versus Indiana. This is a neutral site game. We all went with the Wildcats. I've been really impressed with Arizona so far this year. Indiana just got trounced by Rutgers, right? Long shots. Didn't they get trashed by Rutgers?
Trounced. They came off the big win at UNC. They went into the Jersey Mike's Arena, a sneaky, tough place to play, and got trounced.
Yeah, I can't believe Arizona's an underdog in this game. I was like that.
Yeah.
What do you think this line ends up as, Long shots?
My guess, everyone's going to be thinking about the whole, just losing to Rutgers. My guess is within 5. Arizona is the favorite. That's my guess, but I'm also an idiot when it comes to trying to predict stuff especially with basketball. Football is easy. You could just go 3, 7, 10, 14, pick any of those numbers. But with basketball, it's at worst, I'd say a basket, 3 to 5.
All right. Xavier at Cincinnati. This is a huge game in my hometown of Cincinnati. We all went with Xavier -2, except for Chad. Chad is right in the Bearcats, who got smashed by Northern Kentucky earlier this year.
Good pick, Chad.
Good pick, Chad. Now, Go ahead.
Is this? Did I read correctly? This is the Skyline Chili. This game's being sponsored by Skyline Chili, or the Skyline Chili Arena,
Skyline
Festival,
Skyline Chili Crosstown Shootout. Yeah, so this is
yes, it is.
We've punches in the eyeball. This is an intense rivalry. It's these teams legitimately hate each other. So this is a game that you could kind of sometimes throw the stats out. Xavier actually beat Cincinnati when they were ranked number 1 twice. So it could be flipped around, but yeah, Xavier's a much better team. They would have to really, really underperform. All right, Jacksonville at UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington 2-point favorites. Chad is the odd duck here, going with Jacksonville. 2 points at home. I think these are pretty similar teams. I'm taking UNC Wilmington. John?
Yeah, this one's hard for me to pick. Kind of like we were talking about a few minutes ago, is I don't really know what to expect out of Jacksonville. They haven't had enough true tests. You talked about playing Duke, and then they had a nice showing against Campbell, but I don't really know. And so because I don't know, I kind of went with Wilmington. They've had some decent wins and decent performances this year, but I really just don't have a good read on this Jacksonville team yet this year.
I'm right down the road from Wilmington, and a lot of alumni are hyped up for the basketball team this year. So I think they're expecting great things.
Yeah. All right. This is a game I would never actually bet money on, but yeah, if it's like a 2-point game, I'm just going with the home team. Murray State 4-point favorites on the road at Freedom Hall Arena against Bellarmine. We all went with Murray State. Richie Longshots going with the basement of the ASON in the net, Bellarmine +4.
Yeah, I just think Bellarmine a bounce back home dogs. Murray State, not super impressive in their last 3 games. They beat Valparaiso, only beat Illinois State by 3, which I thought they were a D2 team, and they only beat Chattanooga by 3. So not really blowing teams away, when you think of Murray State. So just a home dog. And it's take the point season.
I was surprised the line was only 4. So then when I was looking at Murray State's record, I mean, you hear Murray State, you're like, wow, that's one of the best mid-majors in the country. But they're down a little bit this year, not quite the same Murray State team that we've seen the last few years. So this is another one that kind of scares me and not one I would personally bet on. But yeah, I think Murray State, the Racers, I just feel like they've got to have more talent than Bellarmine does. But again, Bellarmine has surprised me before.
Yeah, outside of Murray State's first game where they got trounced by St. Louis, they've either won every game or they've had a 1-possession loss, and pretty quality competition. Yeah, I like Murray State. I just think they're a much better team than Bellarmine. But again, Bellarmine, like we said earlier, could be a little bit of inflated numbers just because of how tough a competition they played, and they clearly don't have the athleticism to compete with a lot of these teams. So we'll see. And then Saturday, this is another fun mid-major game. Mercer at Florida Gulf Coast. Dunk City's a wagon right now. I'm riding them. I wanted to go against the grain on this and pick Mercer, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, Florida Gulf at home. It's gonna be a Saturday. That arena is gonna be rocking. No finals on Sunday. It's still our finals week, so it's gonna be the place to be. So it's gonna be a wild arena. I think they win by double digits.
Nick, you and I are on the same wavelength this week. We got all the same picks.
Do we really?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. Oh wow!
I just caught that.
You can't catch me, John.
It's adorable.
All right. Well, we will be very excited to see the field versus Longshots this week. Who comes out on top? Either Longshots going to come in next week, just strutting his St. Peter's peacock, or he's going to have his head down and you're going to have to dig back in. So we will see. Excited about that. Richie, thanks as always.
Thanks for having me.
Any final thoughts for us?
I'm excited to see Richie down in Boca next week. When you booked the flight, right?
Flight is booked. We're flying down Monday afternoon. Land around 1:00, and it's going to be a great few days getting out there. And are there any basketball games while we're down there?
I'm sure there are. We'll have to catch some and see who's getting the upper hand between myself, you, and Chad.
Yes, hopefully there's one of the games that we pick. We'll be able to watch all together, and on top of Monday Night Football, of course, we'll be around for that. But no, it's been great. I take a screenshot of what you posted on there, and I highlight as the week goes on. I highlight the game either red or green, and tracking my tracking how I do, and flipping games on. Like, ooh, final 3 minutes. Let me throw that on real quick. So it's been great to check out games that I normally wouldn't be checking out. That's for certain. So it's been great to watch you guys. Like I said before, learn a little bit about basketball. I can't wait for conference play to begin. That's kind of like the meat and potatoes of a team like Liberty, and that's where we're really going to see how this team shapes up and what the expectations are going to be going forward.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Richie. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week, buddy.
Thank you. We'll see you. Have a great week.
All right, John, you got any final thoughts for us tonight before we get out of here?
No, man, I appreciate you guys doing this each and every week, and I'm really excited about the week coming up. It's kind of a dull spot a little bit this week for the Flames hoops with a non-D1 on Tuesday night, but a lot of football stuff going on. Coach Chadwell's on the road recruiting. I'll probably get some assistant coach hires here this week, and some recruiting news, portal news. It's a busy time, but got the bowl game coming up in a couple weeks. Trying to plan my trip out down there, but it's always fun time of the year, and we got those games, Oral Roberts and Bryant looming. I'm looking forward to those big time.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually got a question from Bill. Sorry, Bill, I missed this earlier. If you're still watching, any insight on Bryant? They were hit with a large team illness. Yeah, actually had a player hospitalized. So, certainly prayers for them. I don't have any, John, I'm assuming you don't have any inside information on this. I mean, this is still like 12 days away.
Yeah,
so
I would think 2 weeks out, we would probably be in the clear on that game. And this is something they've been dealing with for several days. It's not like it just started today. I don't know exactly, but I've first heard about it, I think, 6-7 days ago, maybe about a week ago. So hopefully 2 weeks from now, they'll be back to pretty close to full strength.
Yeah, and you want to see them at full strength. That's a game I've had circled on the calendar all year. Really looking forward to. I know they've had a little bit disappointing season, but they're still a top 200 Ken Palm team on a semi away neutral site type game. So we're looking forward to that. And then, yeah, this is a really fun stretch. December 12th through 19th. This will be a fun 7 or 8 or however many days that is for the Flames. So really looking forward to that. Will, any final thoughts tonight?
Yeah, just looking forward to the next few weeks. And John, I know you'll be working in Boca, but I hope you get a chance to enjoy the game as a fan and as an alumni, and get some rest and relaxation while you're in Florida there too. So,
yeah, I definitely will. Right now, pending work schedules, my wife and our 2 girls are coming down with us and make a long weekend out of it. And I'm sure we'll have some rest and relaxation on the beach and at the pool. And I was checking the weather. It's 85 degrees as a high down there today.
Man.
And of course, we're sitting up here in 42 degrees. I think it was here in Lynchburg today. So I'm looking forward to getting down there for a few days.
Awesome. Well, my final thought of the night, look forward to Liberty hosting Virginia University of Lynchburg. They are a NCCA team, 1-9 this year, 2 games versus Division I opponents. They gave up 109 points to Norfolk State and 123 to Morgan State. So if you are going, I really hope Richie just lets the boys go ham and we see how many points they can score. I want to see 150. Anything less, I'm going to be disappointed. So that's my final thought of the night. Thanks everyone for joining us. If for some reason you're still watching, you are a trooper and we appreciate you. And if you are still watching and you haven't smashed that like button, make sure you do that. And we really appreciate that. Be sure to subscribe to A Sea of Red on YouTube. Helps us continue to grow content for you guys. And then the A Sea of Red live podcast is also always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And then, of course, read all of John's incredible articles on aseaofred.com, always keeping Liberty fans connected. For Will, for John, for Longshots, for Kyle Road, and for Jason Porter Real Estate, I am Nick. Have a great night, everyone.